Straight ahead on IU NewsNet, a letter to IU administration about protecting free speech on campus. And it comes from a group of Jewish professors, even as the federal government targets IU for alleged anti-Semitism on campus. You'll hear from one of them.
And it could save a life, an important addition to Indiana's Lifeline law inspired by tragic events. Could change how underage students respond to emergency situations. We will tell you how it could make a world of a difference.
And she has the power to give you a parking ticket. So why do so many people love her? We'll get up close and personal with Mama Susan and tell you why she might just leave you smiling, even as you face a fine. IU NewsNet starts now.
Welcome to IU NewsNet. I'm Olivia Wilson.
And I'm Emma Herway. We begin with some DEI-related news happening on campus. According to the Indiana Daily Student, IU has made several changes to university web pages concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion.
6 culture centers are now listed as departments under the Office of Student Life, instead of the Office of the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This includes the Neil Marshall Black Culture Center, as well as the LGBTQ+, Asian, Latino, First Nations, and Jewish culture centers. Students are worried the culture centers may not receive the same support if placed under a different department.
The IDS also observed changes to the OVP DEI website, including the removal of the word diversity in many spots and removing resources for diversity education. In other campus news, more than 30 Jewish professors delivered a letter to IU administration demanding they protect free speech on campus. This comes after the Department of Education announced an investigation into alleged anti-Semitism on IU's campus earlier this month. In the letter, the IU professors urged leaders to not use their names or those of Jewish students as justification to limit free speech at IU. Political science professor Jeffrey Isaac, who signed the letter, said university and state laws already protect against anti-Semitism, and he has never felt afraid on campus. Professor Isaac said criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitic, and that is an example of free speech that should be allowed on campus.
We care about anti-Semitism, but this is being used as a pretext for broader forms of repression. We don't want that. We don't want to see it, and we don't want to see it justified as a matter of protecting us, because it threatens us.
At Columbia University, the federal government canceled $400 million in funding because of, quote, persistent harassment of Jewish students, end quote. The university conceded to the Trump administration's demands to keep the funding, which included the arrest of a student activist. Isaac is worried this could be repeated at IU.
After a nearly 3-week suspension, Greek life activities on the IU campus are back. The suspension began in early March after the Interfraternity Council and the Pan-Hellenic Association decided to pause all Greek life activities to address health and safety concerns. According to IUPD crime logs, there have been 5 reports of Greek-related hazing since the beginning of the semester. 1 report of rape, which allegedly took place at a Greek life house on campus on March 2nd, and 5 reports of aggravated battery. We reached out to the IFC and the PHA for an update on the suspension, but did not receive a reply. A law meant to save lives could be receiving a major update. Indiana's Lifeline law provides legal immunity to those seeking emergency assistance for alcohol-related incidents, including underage drinkers. Before, it only protected the person making the call. Now, if Senate Bill 74 is signed into law, immunity will be extended to the person experiencing the emergency. Angie Fiji is the mother of former IU student Rachel Fiji, who died freshman year after falling down a set of stairs and striking her in the head while intoxicated. Fiji shares how this law extension could save the lives of many more students.
I'm always sad that the law was not recognized enough when my daughter died. But I feel so much more comfort for students going forward, knowing that this law is in place to protect them.
Senate Bill 74 is 1 step away from being passed in Indiana. All it needs now is a signature from Governor Mike Braun.
A former Indiana teacher from Martinsville is in custody and facing multiple new charges of sexual abuse. And just yesterday, a tort notice was brought against the Martinsville School District. The notice alleged that the Martinsville School District knew of 31-year-old Brittany Fortenberry's past sexual misconduct, but still chose to hire her. Fortenberry is now facing 29 charges, including 10 counts of child molestation, 9 of dissemination of matter harmful to minors, 6 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and 4 counts of sexual misconduct with a minor. Court documents indicate some of the students were just 13 and 14 at the time. Fortenberry was a former permanent and substitute teacher for 2 schools in Morgan County. She is set to attend a jury trial on June 25th. The battle against sexual violence on Indiana University's campus starts early. IU's Office of Sexual Violence Prevention believes educational courses are one of the best strategies for awareness on these issues. IU NewsNet Riley Stark has the story.
Be like, hey, are you okay? Do you want out of here for a minute? Like,
Molly Weiler and her team of educators spend their Monday evenings here in Ballantine Hall, teaching required sexual violence prevention courses to IU freshmen. The educators, many with counseling, social work, or psychology backgrounds, have found the job to be a unique outlet for their passion.
Being able to work here with people who are like my age and kind of make change happen in my environment has been really exciting.
Weiler, a sexual assault survivor, says that just like every job, there are good days and bad days. But the bad days are the ones that are most impactful.
We know that sexual violence is
some of the people that I get the most satisfaction from in doing this work are the people that give me the most pushback or are the most hesitant to engage with the work because I can see what I'm doing really making a difference.
The Sexual Violence Prevention Program is designed to teach IU freshmen how to say yes or how to say
no. Good job, good job.
Along with proper consent, students learn about victim advocacy, aid, and resources surrounding sexual violence.
If it doesn't happen, like, great, but then, like, if it does, just, like, having, like, the information to, like, know what to do or, like, how to deal with it. So I feel like it's always, like, nice to know, like, better be safe than sorry.
Although the course is offered online via Canvas, the program's administration believes there is more benefit to be had at the in-person class. And by the end, many students agreed the course was worth their time.
For more information about sexual violence prevention resources on campus, go to stopsexualviolence.iu.edu.
2 additional former IU men's basketball players are now added to a lawsuit against IU, alleging sexual abuse by a former team doctor. IU's current men's basketball trainer, Tim Garl, is also named in the lawsuit. Larry Richardson Jr. and Butch Carter joined 3 other previous men's basketball players in the suit. It was originally filed in last October, alleging sexual misconduct by former team physician Brad Bomba Sr. In January, Garl, the current trainer, was added as a defendant. Now it alleges that Garl assigned players to Bomba Sr., while he was aware of alleged sexual misconduct during physicals conducted by Bomba. Documents indicate Carter complained about Bomba to former head coach Bob Knight, but he says the complaints were always dismissed. A soldier on and off the battlefield. A local veteran with over 17 years of service under her belt is now facing her biggest fight yet.
The U.S. soldier currently living in a nearby town is fighting for her life, with an army of local support behind her. IU NewsNet's Jack Bassett has the story from Lawrence County. Jack?
I want to introduce you to a woman who embodies the true definition of an American hero. Meet Kelsey Collard. Kelsey's a soldier, a mentor, and a fighter. She served 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan and Kuwait, but her courage extends far beyond the battlefield.
She worked at the schools. She volunteered her time for Big Brothers Big Sisters, 4-H leader, on the PTO, baseball coach, soccer coach. I mean, just everything. She just loves kids and loves community.
An energy unmatched. Kelsey Collard enlisting in the Army at just 17 years old. And now, at 34, she spent more than half her life in service, both to her country and her community.
She just doesn't realize what all she does. So many people look at her and they look up to her, and she doesn't realize it. And she's realizing it now.
Married and raising a family, Kelsey continues to lead with strength. But now, she faces a new battle. A war within. Kelsey, diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer.
You can either let the sickness be you, or you can overcome it and continue to live your life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. You're gonna either choose to be sick or you're not.
Even with a warrior's mindset, the cancer is now spread to her lungs, liver, and brain, shifting her perception of life.
Just don't take life for granted. Each one day at a time. Enjoy each moment that you're given. Take pictures. Pictures last a lifetime.
But Kelsey isn't fighting alone. This week, the Lawrence County community came together, hosting a silent auction to support her and her family.
$20 bid, I got 20, 25.
Just, I want her to know how loved she is. I want her to know how loved she is. That we all love her and we're here for a good time and get her money to get her help.
We're usually the ones helping others. So the fact that we're needing help to do what we need to do to try to, have her here for another 10, 20, 30 years, however long we can keep her here, it's definitely been a huge eye-opener.
If you would like to support Kelsey, a GoFundMe account can be found here on the screen to help her with medical expenses. Reporting for IU NewsNet, I'm Jack Bassett.
When we come back, as President Trump moves to shut down the Department of Education, students are concerned about the impact on their loans. We'll break down what this could mean for you.
Plus, wheelchair basketball is more than just a club. It offers students of all physical abilities a chance to leave their comfort zone and see life from a different point of view. We'll show you how this club is making a difference. Stay with us. President Trump says he's shutting down the Department of Education. But what happens to your student loans, which the department oversees?
As the April federal student aid deadline approaches, there's been confusion. The Department of Education manages $1.6 trillion in federal student loans, while congressional approval is needed to shut down the department. The Trump administration plans to turn over management of current student loans to the Small Business Administration. Experts say students are rightfully uncertain as the executive branch, Congress, and the courts duke it out.
When students are working on income-based repayment programs or some of the other types of repayment plans, that is where some things have been paused as courts are fighting things out, determining what are going to be the rules going forward.
Bill Wozniak says there is no reason to believe FAFSA is going away, even with Trump's executive order. That's the free student aid form that affects many families of high school students. Wozniak says it is imperative to stick to the April 15th application deadline in order to also be eligible for federal and Indiana aid.
Bloomington postal workers are taking a stand against proposed changes to the U.S. Postal Service. Dozens of letter carriers gathered downtown Sunday to protest privatization efforts they say could threaten jobs and slow mail delivery. The National Association of Letter Carriers warns the changes may impact essential services, including medications and ballots. Nationwide protests have erupted following Postmaster General Louis DeJoy's resignation amid ongoing criticism over cost-cutting and service delays.
There is nothing pleasant about getting a parking ticket, or is there?
IU NewsNet's Claire Tips has the story of a Bloomington woman who doles out tickets, but also a measure of good cheer. Claire?
Here in Bloomington, there's someone you probably already know, even if you don't know her name. Susan McCarter is a city parking enforcement officer, but she does a lot more than print this. I met up with Mama Susan, as people like to call her, earlier this week to see how she's changing the reputation for parking attendants, one smile at a time.
Everyone knows that all too familiar feeling. You walk up to your car after a long day and see that little orange slip of paper tucked behind the windshield wiper.
I'm sorry, girl.
Getting a parking ticket isn't the most joyous experience, but one Bloomington parking attendant hopes to change that.
If somebody's having a bad day and I don't even need to know about it, if I can do something that makes them giggle or smile, you know, that's good.
Susan McCarter, or Mama Susan, makes it her mission to leave you smiling, even if she's also leaving you a ticket.
If they see me coming, they will, you know, pick up the pay. You can tell. They're like, oh, I got to check my meter. And I used to like run along beside them and say, if I get there first, you get the ticket, you know. And I just like playing with them.
We can all agree that getting one of these is not exactly fun. But if it's from Mama Susan, odds are it comes with a smile and even a life lesson.
Always excited, no matter what, doesn't even matter what happens. And she always tells us about it.
Yeah, she'll be like, guess what happened today?
And she'll make something bad into something good.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like she tries to use, she did this to me when I was a kid too, and I hated it at the time, but I get it now as a parent. She tries to use everything as a teachable moment.
And those teachable moments don't stop with her daughter and grandsons. Mama Susan treats the whole town like they're her family, making sure to spread the love while also still enforcing the rules.
One boy, a few weeks ago, on Morton, gave a ticket, and he came out. I don't think I'd printed it yet, so I was like, well, you're here now, I'll make it. He said, oh, really? I said, yeah, but I'm gonna, it was cold out, and he came out with flip-flops, because he just saw me from his window and come running down there. And I said, but I'm gonna make you stand out here and get your feet cold while you listen to the Mama lecture, the Mama Susan lecture.
Mama Susan understands the frustration of getting a ticket, but her family hopes that people can look past the paper and see the person.
Seeing everyone as a person first, not a parking enforcement officer, but like Susan, you know, the human.
So the next time you find a ticket on your windshield, think about who put it there. And if it's from Mama Susan, chances are she'd love to chat.
Talks to literally everybody.
Yep. She doesn't know a stranger.
These are just a few of the many stories Mama Susan had to share. And if you get to meet her, she'll probably have a few more. Thanks, you guys. Now back to you, Olivia and Emma.
Thanks, Claire. Measles cases are currently surging in Texas, and health officials here in Bloomington want to make sure it doesn't spread to Indiana. On Monday, March 31st, you can get protected at a free mobile vaccine clinic at the Monroe County Public Library Southwest Branch. The clinic runs from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. and is open to unvaccinated individuals of all ages, as well as adults who may need a booster. Hosted by the Indiana Department of Health and Monroe County Health Department, this clinic brings vaccines straight to the community with no appointment needed.
We have a security alert if you ever signed up for the genetic testing with 23andMe. The company has filed for bankruptcy just months after a massive data breach exposed the personal and genetic information of nearly 7 million users. The CEO has now resigned, and privacy experts warn that customers' DNA data could be sold as the company liquidates its assets. Users are now urged to delete their accounts and request the destruction of their samples. To delete your 23andMe data, log into your account and go to Settings. Scroll to 23andMe Data, click View, scroll to Delete Data, and click Permanently Delete Data.
At Indiana University, disabled does not mean incapable, and the Wheelchair Basketball Club proves just that. Through the club, disabled and able-bodied students get the opportunity to play a sport they love while redefining their own boundaries. Our own Ava Firmuga has the story.
And just like that, Parker Timberman is ready to go. Although the club focuses on inclusion and community, surprisingly, there's only one disabled member on the team who was born premature and diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
It affects balance. I have strabismus in my eyes, so depth perception can be a little off.
Despite his disabilities, he refuses to be defined by them, choosing to focus on his strengths rather than his limitations and encouraging others to get out of their comfort zone and try something new.
What we need to remember is that individuals with disabilities live it every day, so they know what they're going to be able to do or what they're not going to be able to do, and 9 times out of 10, there's a way for them to do it. We just might have to go about it a different way.
And that's exactly what Timberman does. He redefines his boundaries and adapts by showing up to Gym 163 every Monday and Wednesday night, practicing the sport he loves within the limits of his physical abilities, alongside his able-bodied friends and teammates. Still, questions and misunderstandings about Wheelchair Basketball Club and the game itself arise.
A common misconception about wheelchair basketball is that it's actually easier than its traditional counterpart, when in reality, it's equally as challenging, if not harder.
To come in here and have people who play basketball think that they're going to just absolutely smoke me, and then they come in here and they don't know what they're doing, they don't know how to push a chair, is really cool. It really puts things into perspective.
Along with gaining perspective, members build a strong sense of community and form deep bonds, all rooted in one of the club's core values, unity.
I think everybody really builds everyone else up and helps everybody along, and that in turn brings with it, more perspective and more empathy and more, team building.
Again, it is open to all. If you are interested in trying something new and becoming part of a supportive, inclusive team, reach out to Parker Timberman at ptimberm@iu.edu.
When we come back, IU men's swim and dive is the best it's been in 50 years, the latest from nationals. Also, several IU women's basketball players enter the portal.
Plus, IU men's basketball is preparing to enter a new era with a brand new coach. We'll have reaction. Stay with us. Welcome back. In life and in sports, they say the only constant is change.
IU NewsNet's Lacey Carr is pinch hitting on sports for us this week. Lacey, a new coach and a new era for IU.
That's right. We knew the Mike Woodson era was coming to an end, but the process to hire a replacement stayed firmly under wraps until the announcement of Darren DeVries. IU NewsNet's Nick Abel makes the introduction.
The long-awaited search comes to an end. Darren DeVries is the new Indiana men's basketball head coach. Formerly at West Virginia and Drake, DeVries reportedly signed a 6-year contract, making nearly $5 million a year. Hoosier fans' passion and desire to win is reflected in their new man.
Nobody's going to want to win as bad as I do, or our staff does, or our players do. So from my standpoint, let's do that. Let's do that together as a fan base, as a community. Let's rally around one another to let's go make this thing happen, and let's take this thing to as high a level as we can and try to put that on a consistent basis.
DeVries won 20 games in all 6 seasons at Drake and took the Bulldogs to 3 NCAA tournaments, but went 0-3 in those trips. His West Virginia squad was controversially the first team left out of the NCAA tournament this season. He can now build a new identity for Indiana.
He has a passion to be here. He wants to build the identity of Indiana basketball, and we want a consistent identity, and so we couldn't be more excited.
I'm here outside of Simon Scott Assembly Hall, where Darren DeVries will establish his Indiana identity and continue his coaching career next November. But for Indiana students and fans, the hope is, under DeVries, the Hoosiers will play deep into the springtime and into March.
I think that to measure success, we need to look at it on the grand scheme of things, winning in March Madness, and not just getting to the tournament.
DeVries' work begins now with the transfer portal already open. The new head coach can start to build his roster for next year. For IU NewsNet, I'm Nick Abel.
With DeVries confirmed as head coach, the attention turns to building next year's roster, and Indiana will have a lot of changes. Entered the transfer portal since it opened on Monday. That leaves just 2 returning scholarship Hoosiers rostered for next year if Luke Goody's waiver for an extra year of eligibility is accepted by the NCAA. Former 4-star recruit Gabe Cupps is the only player who has joined another program at this point, as he announced his commitment to Ohio State yesterday. The other players can recommit to Indiana until the April 22nd deadline hits, but with over 1,000 players already in the portal, expect massive changes in the IU program. Indiana women's basketball season is over, and there's change underway on that team as well. Senior guards Chloe Moore McNeil and Sydney Parrish are both set to graduate. The Hoosiers also have numerous players reportedly in the transfer portal. Here's a list of who has entered the portal. Junior forward Lily Meister, junior guard Lexis Bargesser, sophomore guard Juliana Lamondola, junior guard Henna Sandvik, and junior forward Sharnice Curry-Jelks. As for the season-ending game, the Hoosiers fell to number 1 seed South Carolina 64-53 in the second round of the NCAA tournament. In her final year coaching key players like Moore McNeil and Parrish, head coach Terry Morin led Indiana to its straight to its 10th straight 20-win season. The defending national champ South Carolina knocked Indiana out of the dance for the second year in a row. Head coach Dawn Staley offered her insight on what's kept Indiana from taking the next step in March.
Terry can coach, like she can really coach. She does a really great job at getting her players to play to their strengths. I think you just have to keep plugging. She's got the talent. She's got, the assistant coaches pool of people. You just got to get lucky.
With 2 key seniors graduating and 5 players currently in the portal, Morin and her staff will be very busy this offseason as they rebuild. Both IU swim and dive teams are having a great season. The second-ranked men's swim and dive team is currently competing in the NCAA tournament in Seattle, which wraps up Saturday. Of Indiana's 20 athletes, 16 have earned All-America honors. The men's team this season is regarded as one of the best in 50 years. Last month, they won the Big Ten championship for the 4th year in a row. The IU women's swim and dive team came in 4th place last week in the NCAA tournament, right after finishing 2nd in the Big Ten. This week is also a big one for Little 500 racers, where men's and women's teams will fight it out to qualify for the official race. This Saturday, a combined 75 men's and women's teams are set to race the Little 500 qualifications. 36 women's teams are registered, the most in Little 500 history, as well as 39 men's teams. But only 33 men's and 33 women's teams can stay, meaning 9 teams will be cut. The qualifications are free and open to the public and will be held from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. To baseball now, with a twist of music on the side. Yogi Berra once said that baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. One Indiana baseball player keeps his brain sharp with the help of his saxophone. Nick Rodecap has the story.
You might know Andrew Wiggins for big swings like this. The sophomore is making a name for himself in the Indiana outfield. When Wiggins isn't blasting baseballs into orbit, you might find him playing the saxophone, a hobby that runs in his family.
My mom was really big into music, so I've always been hanging out with her. She would drop me off at school, listen to music, so I was like, I wanted to play, got in the band, and heard the saxophone actually through my mom, and I told my band director, hey, I want to play saxophone. She was like, all right, let's do it.
He once even combined the two, playing the national anthem before the city championship game while he was at Heritage Christian High School in Indianapolis.
I did well. I was actually starting pitching that day, and I went from playing the saxophone right to the mound and warming up. So
from Northeast Indy to Bloomington, baseball and music remain connected. For Wiggins, who is majoring in sport marketing and management while minoring in music, it's an escape.
That's one of the first things you always tell guys is you have to have a hobby. It needs to be a healthy hobby, right? Something that's like mentally and physically healthy, and that can take you away from here and kind of get a break. I like to hunt and fish, and he likes to play instruments, but as long as we got something else that we can do besides baseball, that keeps us healthy.
It's actually like my #1 escape, like just going in and playing, whether it's the garage, my dorm room, my apartment, somewhere I can play. It's always just a release of emotions, I get to express myself.
Take it from me, a washed-up saxophonist and has-been baseball player. He's the real deal at both. And Wiggins didn't play much last season, but he worked hard behind the scenes, and that work, much like his work on the saxophone, has paid off. These days, you can usually find him at the top of Indiana's lineup.
It just looked like showing up every single day to do my job. I knew, my time is not really playing yet, so I was like, let me use this time to get better, and that's what I did. I took everything seriously and, just waited for my time, and this year, I've got to shine a little bit, so just keep on doing what I've been doing.
For IU NewsNet, I'm Nick Rodecap.
And on that note, that's all for sports this week. Emma and Olivia, back to you at the desk.
That's it for IU NewsNet for now. We have a behind-the-scenes student production team in the control room and working in the studio for this broadcast. We thank them and we thank you for watching. I'm Emma Herway.
And I'm Olivia Wilson. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at IU NewsNet and on the IU Media School YouTube channel. Take care, and we will see you next week.